This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a lot better this week than I was last week when I was like dying to doing this. And this week, we've got literally the proverbial Wolves voice of reason. We've got Jack Finch. How you doing, my friend?
Not too bad, Dave. How are you?
Fantastic. And now, you know, Jack is the voice of reason. He always comes across with some fantastic points. And we haven't had Jack on the ball yet. So I thought, what an opportunity to get Jack's view on the last 2 or 3 weeks that's been going on with Wolves. And, of course, all the week's events. So in this one, we're going to be covering off quite a lot. I'm going to get Jack's take on the transfer window so far. If you've seen the thumbnail on YouTube, you know that there's a mystery man. It's like it's not the what's the chocolate person?
The milk tray.
The lady loves milk tray.
Yeah.
Well, it's the mystery man. He's got a big question because we've got no signings other than a free agent from Northampton, Keeper. Okay, we'll cover off on that. And obviously, we've had all the outgoings up until this point. Another one's gone this week. Mr. Nathan Collins will be getting stuck into that. However, Wolves players have reported for pre-season, and they flew off to a warm weather training camp, not knowing if it's more warmer than it is here because it's quite a warm day today. Not everyone's reported back yet. And I'm fully aware, because I've got like the members Discord group and I talk to a lot of people. A lot of Wolves fans are really stressed out about we're selling everyone and we're not bringing anyone in. And there's all the doom and gloom. We're going to get relegated. We're not going to get 10 points, this, that, and the other. Jack, let's get started. And we're going to come to the chat in a minute and you will be able to ask loads of questions at the end. Jack, what is your take on the summer window and everything that's going on with Wolves at the moment?
I think there's a bigger picture at play, isn't there? I mean, we talk about that a lot. I think that the key thing is if anyone kind of wants to go away and do some reading, if you go and look at what Matt Hobbs said about 3 weeks ago, he did a big interview on the website, and he pretty much said exactly how it's going to go. We're going to have to get players off the books first. Lopetegui wants to have a look at players that have come back from loan spells and long-term injuries. You know, I mean, if you think about it this way, if you do your weekly food shop, you go and check your cupboards first, don't you? See what you've got before you go and spend money on stuff that you might not need. So I think that's what they've got to kind of do. They've got to look at what we've got in the squad currently and then go and make these investments. Because if you think of strikers, for example, yes, we need a striker. Absolutely, we do. But you've got Sasha Kalajic, and you've got Fabio Silva coming back from injuries and loans. Now, depending on what Lopetegui wants or what he sees in those two, depends on what kind of striker he wants to bring in. If he looks at Sasha Kalajic and thinks, actually, I can use him, that then changes the striker that he's going to recruit because he's got options covered by Sasha. And the same with Fabio. But if he thinks, actually, neither of them are going to cut the mustard for me, then he needs to go and get someone that's going to bring what those two don't. So it makes sense from a point of view of let's assess the squad first. You know, he was constantly doing that at the end of last season, wasn't he? We saw some dreadful team selections at times when he was just throwing people in and trying different things and looking at, you know, he tried Bentley and Golding, then he brought Sarr back, then he tried Totti at left back, then put him at centre half, then he put Collins in, took Collins out, played Dawson, took Dawson. So he's trying lots of different things. And I think he's trying to just get a grip of, you know, we've said it before, what's my best 11? You know, what if the season was starting tomorrow, what team would I put out at Old Trafford? And I think he's probably trying to do that at the minute with the training camps and things. And then I think the recruitment will start once he's got that clear idea. I mean, I think they've got targets lined up. I think we know the names of some of them anyway, don't we? You know, the likes of Gyökeres and Alex Scott and one or two others. So, you know, I think it's, you know, we're going to make signings. I don't think anyone's thinking we're not going to sign anyone. I think the stress is coming the fact that, you know, the market is started now. You look at some of the teams are making their moves, aren't they? And we seem to be proverbially stood still. But I think if you read the Matt Hobbs article, I think this was always the plan, to try and move people on, bring some finances in, and then perhaps use that money when they know how much money they've got, and then they know where the gaps are in the squad.
Trevor Dean says major signings needed across the back, wingers and a striker. Will all of this be done? Nope. What's your take on that?
It's difficult to say, isn't it? I mean, I don't disagree. I think we do need a centre half, definitely. I think we need a centre forward, absolutely. And you know me on my thoughts. I think we need a new goalkeeper as well. But whether we get all those positions,
Well, we've got a new goalkeeper, Jack. But probably not the goalkeeper you were anticipating.
No, a new first choice goalkeeper. Let's put it that way. Yeah, I mean, I think Tom King is a good bit of business in terms of letting the younger players go out on loan. It makes sense. You know, a lot of teams have got an experienced third choice, haven't they, these days? So that's a good bit of business. But yeah, no, I mean, I understand why people are frustrated because, you know, like we said, the end of last season, we were all crying out, yes, we need strikers, we need goals in the team, this, that, and the other. And we're, you know, 3-4 weeks into pre-season and nothing's happened. But, you know, you've just got to kind of wait and see. I'm sure, you know, Lopetegui and Hobbs have got a plan in place. But I think if you read that article, Matt Hobbs made it really clear. We need to get people off the books first, you know, because of financial fair play. But also because, you know, like we've just said, if you've got gaps in your squad, you need to know where those gaps are. You can't go and sign 3-4 players and then go, oh, well, actually, that there means I've got to offload this guy. And because if teams know you're desperate to get rid of players, they'll try and undercut you with the fee and all sorts. So it makes sense to get people out first and then perhaps try and get the people in that you've targeted in the past.
We've got a comment here from, and before I get on to that, guys, if you're watching this live or you're watching it back, make sure you subscribe to the channel because you can join in the comment section and smash a like on the video as well. It lets YouTube know that you're enjoying it. Adam Walker says, we always leave it till the last minute to get transfers, getting worried. I don't see that Wolves leave things till the last minute with transfers. We're not really a team that goes on deadline day or anything like that. What's your take on what his opinion on that we leave things till last minute?
I'm not sure we leave it to the last minute. I mean, we've never been particularly, I don't know if the proactive is the right word. You know, we never strike early, do we? You know, we've never been that kind of team since Fosun came in, really. I mean, I remember when that first summer when they came in, it was all very kind of last couple of weeks of the summer, wasn't it? Where he brought in Cavallero and Saiss and one or two others came in, didn't they? Teixeira and Costa and all those guys. So under Fosun, we've always been sort of seeing how the market plays out and then we make our moves. I'm not sure whether we leave it last minute. I know we've done the odd deal on deadline day. I think the other thing on that one as well, if we're being realistic, and you know we all bleed gold and black, we absolutely do. But we're not top of the food chain, are we, as a football club? So it might be that we have to let the top teams, the likes of Man United, Liverpool, Man City, all those guys, do their business, and then we see who's available. You know, because it might be that if Chelsea sign a player from Chelsea becomes available that we quite like. So we've kind of got to let them do their business and then we can go and get that player, perhaps a bit cheaper than if we'd have signed him at the start of June or the end of June. So I think sometimes there's a little bit of that involved. I mean, I understand why people are sort of, not panicking is the wrong word, isn't it? But again, a bit
some people literally are panicking and they're literally panicking. And I'm like, I get it, but I'm not panicking. I understand from. I mean, Sutty makes a point here. It's like no problem with anyone going apart from the January signings. We've been shocking, and I think that's a fair point that he makes. But the January signing started at a clean sweep. You've got to forget what happened last summer under Bruno Lage and Scott Sellers and all that. That's gone. January, we made some great signings, some good value signings, and pretty much every one of them made a difference. So this is a new team now. Lopetegui's the manager. Hobbs has come in. You know, he was instrumental, by the way, Hobbs, in getting Kilman for 40,000. Hobbs, you know, and people are talking about Kilman now being sold for 35, 40 million. Hobbs was the person that got Kilman for 40,000. So I kind of get. Because last summer was a shambles, wasn't it? From in every single way, everything, all the decisions pretty much went wrong.
In hindsight, it was, yeah. But I mean, to be fair, at the time when we'd signed Nunes and Guedes and Kalajic and we thought, oh, here we go. We thought there's some good players on paper there, but as you say, in hindsight, and the ongoing issue with obviously Bruno Lage not quite being the manager that we perhaps hoped or thought that he was going to be. No, and we were on extra time a lot, weren't we, at the end of last season? And we said, that this group of players, particularly the ones that have been there for a while, have got a bit stale. It happens in football now. I think the days where you have players playing for the same club for 10, 11, 12 years, that's pretty much gone now, with the odd exception. Players do need to move on after 3, 4. You need that constant rotation of your first team. And we saw that at the end of last season, that we once safety was secured, we turned in some dreadful performances, if we're being brutally honest.
Yeah.
And
away from home, especially.
Away from home, particularly, yeah. And with the greatest of respect to the players, particularly, there weren't many that you'd be desperate to keep if you were being brutally honest. Do you know what I mean? So I think we did need to have this honest discussion with the players and say, well, these are the players that you need to get. Ultimately, we need, as a fan base, to put our trust in the manager. And as a fan base, I don't think we ever fully trusted Bruno Lage. Even when he had us 5th, 6th in the table, there was still a strong element of the fan base that were like, he did this with Benfica and it went south pretty quickly. And that particular group of fans were proved right, weren't they? So, whereas I think we've got to kind of be all in on Lopetegui. And if he looks at a player and says, actually, he's not for me, then we've got to back him to move that player on and bring someone else in. And I think we've started to see that with the move of Collins. I was a defender of Collins on your channel, wasn't I? And a lot of people were saying he's not good enough. And I said, he's not good enough yet. He might well turn out to be. But could we afford to have a £20 million centre-half on the bench? Because he wasn't going to be first choice this season, was he? If we're being brutally honest. Because Kilman and Dawson were first choice, rightly, from their performances last season. And if Lopetegui was going to bring another centre-half in, they'd be above him in the pecking order. So it makes sense to move him on, even if...
And we've made a profit on him as well in the year.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I get this. I mean, people call him Calamity Collins and stuff like that. And Lopetegui did give him a few opportunities. We saw against Arsenal what happened last match of the season. We saw how Kilman improved in terms of his confidence when he was playing alongside Dawson. He was so much better a player than when he was playing alongside Collins. So he was on the bench. Is he going to turn into being a really good central defender? I think he probably will be. Collins, he's only 22. He's still young for a defender. But, Brentford wanted him. We've got £23 million plus add-ons. We've made money. And that definitely means that there's going to be a centre-back coming in. Before we get on to the incomings, Jack, and then moving on to pre-season, Collins... We're going to talk about the transfers that have been done going out, first of all, to get your take on it. Collins, are you happy, even though you were a defender of him, you're happy with the business and you're quite happy that he's with the money that we've got for him?
Yeah, I think so, because like I said, I don't think we're in any position as a football club to have a £20 million bench warmer, effectively. And, and I think we've got to kind of almost have a cut-off point here and go, at that particular moment in time, was that a good deal for the football club? Yes, it was. So absolutely, we go and do that deal. We had a thing with Jota, didn't we, where we sold him for £41 million, and we all went, oh, it's a great bit of business. Then he had a great spell at Liverpool. We all went, oh, that was a terrible. We should have held on for more money. But it's at that particular moment, isn't it? You can't use hindsight to revalue a player. You've got to kind of go, at that particular moment, £23 million for Nathan Collins is a good deal for the football club. So let's do the deal. And I think they've done the right thing. So yeah, and I wish him well. Yeah.
We do wish him well, because he's a nice lad and he'll go on and have a good career, no doubt about it. Hope he has a bit of calamity when we play Brentford next season. So let's rewind again. Connor Cody, obviously Everton rejected him. They had a buy option for £4.5 million, didn't take it. He's ended up going to Leicester, 7.5 million with a £1 million add-on if he gets promoted with Leicester. What's your take on that?
Again, I think it's a good deal for everyone, isn't it? It's a good move for Cody. It's a good move for the club in terms of, like you say, we've got extra to what we'd have got if Everton had triggered the option to buy. And it's obviously, I don't know whether Lopetegui would have reintegrated him. The suggestion online was that he was prepared to do that, but again, I think we go around in circles with the Cody debate, don't we? Yes, in the back three, hardly anyone better in the Premier League. In a back four, big concerns. And if Lopetegui is going to prioritise a back four going forward, which I think he is, then there's probably not much room for Conor Cody. You know, and we saw last year when he dropped out of being first choice, you know, he wanted to go and play football. You know, someone like Conor Cody just wants to play football, doesn't he? Wherever that is. So it's a really good deal for everyone, really. You know, no one kind of loses out if that makes sense. We get a good fee, he gets a good move, and obviously Leicester get a leader and a good player.
I think it's a very good signing for Leicester in the Championship. And Connor, if they're playing a back three, or even if they're playing a back four in the Championship, will probably do all right because he's a leader and a good person for Leicester. Need that leadership around the dressing room. It's interesting, isn't it, that there wasn't a Premier League option for him to come in, and he's ended up having to drop down the Championship. Probably means his England career's out the way, but like good money again for a player that's not really going to be part of Lopetegui's plans going forward. So we're looking there at 31 million. And then you look at, before we get to Neves, Moutinho has gone. Adama Traore is a free agent. We don't 100% know what's happening with Adama at the moment because he's not signed for anyone. And I do know Wolves would like to keep him. I think Lopetegui would like to keep him. So it'd be interesting to see how that pans out. Obviously, Costa gone. That's a lot of money off the wage bill, isn't it? What's your thoughts on the Moutinho, the Traore, and the Costa all going the right decisions? Do you think, or would you like Traore to re-sign if there is an option to do that?
I mean, I think with Traore, it comes down to the finances again, and you know that's kind of the way of modern football, isn't it? You know, I mean, the stuff that you read online, Traore wanted a particular salary. Wolves were prepared to offer a little bit less, so he didn't sign the contract. So, you know, he'll have the club will have a value on Traore. This is what we think you're worth in terms of a weekly wage. He's got every right as a footballer to say, actually, I think I'm worth more, so I'm not going to sign that, and I'm going to go somewhere else that will pay me. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I did like Adama. It was frustrating, you know, and infuriating at times as well. But in terms of a wild card option, if you like, you know, he was a good option on the bench. But again, you know, you're looking at someone whose best role is probably as an impact sub. Now, he probably thinks he's 26, 25, 26 now. He's probably thinking, I need to go somewhere where I'm going to start every week or I'm going to start games regularly. So, again, it kind of comes down to that as well, doesn't it? And obviously with Costa and Moutinho, they're on big money as well. And Moutinho had started less and less games, hadn't he, towards the end of the season. Costa came in, had an big impact in the dressing room, but only one goal. So you're thinking, well, you know, is that worth a new deal? Probably not. So again, it kind of makes sense to move them on and try and recruit in a different way.
Yeah, I think you make good points there. Obviously, I mean, disappointing how Moutinho ended. It was a great player for the club, but disappointing at the way it ended. And we've not heard a peep since, which I think is a slight tint. We've covered this. Obviously, Costa's gone. He was a character. Adama Traore, I believe he's been offered a fair bit of money by Wolves, though, but maybe he just wants a different challenge. But like, you know, Barcelona didn't want him. He went there. There's rumours about AC Milan. It'd be interesting to see when that does get, because he's got to make a decision very, very soon on where he's going, because he needs to get back into pre-season. So I expect to hear something on Adama Traore in the next week. That's 5 players, and we've not got to Neves yet, out of the squad from last year that have gone, which is, you can understand why people are like, Cody, okay, he didn't play for us, but like Collins, Adama, Moutinho, Costa, 5 potential squad players that have gone. And then we move on to, obviously, the first one that got the ball rolling, which was the left field. And it's really going to be interesting to hear your view on this, because obviously he wanted Barcelona. They messed him about. Saudi came in, 47 million, probably getting sort of 8 to 10 times his salary. He's gone. Great money for Wolves, 47 million. I mean, how much did you think we were going to get for Neves?
I'd kind of got about 30 in my head. I thought but I think, yeah, and I thought with Barcelona it would probably end up being sort of 50p up front and 2 players on loan, and then the rest in instalments when this happens and that happens. So, you know, I think we'd all kind of resigned ourselves to the fact that Neves was going to move on. and he didn't owe us anything. He'd been a great servant for the club. It'd been great to watch him over the last sort of 6 years. I'm surprised he's gone to Saudi Arabia. I mean, I think if I put myself in his shoes, I'd find it very difficult to turn down that kind of money. I really would, so I'm not going to sort of throw stones in a glass house and criticise anyone for taking that money, because I think if we were in the same position, we'd do the same. If someone offered me 10 times my salary to do the same job, I'd probably jump ship straight away. So, it's difficult, and you don't want to kind of come across as a hypocrite. I think it's very early to tell with Saudi Arabia, isn't it? We've had things like the Russian league a few years ago, had a lot of investment, and then the Chinese league did for a short time. It seems to be a little. Say that again, sorry.
And the MLS as well.
The MLS as well, yeah, of course, yeah. Obviously, Messi's gone there as well, hasn't he? So obviously, they're still investing in sort of marquee players, aren't they? It seems to be a little bit more serious with Saudi. They've got obviously a sort of an endless resource of cash, if you like, to
they've like almost players. Got an endless barrel of oil.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's kind of, I mean, I think I read somewhere, if people can correct me, that's great. But I think the top 4 clubs in Saudi Arabia are all owned effectively by the state. So it's not the clubs that are kind of buying these big stars. It's the Saudi state, to try and tourism and all this kind of thing. And, there's obviously political issues but again, there's a lot of issues across the globe, aren't there, with things, and it's not really our place to kind of judge people on their career choices. Like I said, I'm surprised he went there, but if that's the only offer that's kind of come through, because we don't know what Barcelona's intentions were, it seemed to me that it was more Neves and Mendes particularly pushing him to Barca. There was stuff coming out that Xavi didn't want him at all, and he wanted this player instead, and they couldn't afford him, and any deal would be there'd be no cash, it'd be players swapped over. So I think in the end, Wolves have done right by the club, haven't they, really? And gone, well, let's maximise what money we can get for a player that's in the last year of his contract and probably isn't going to renew it. 47 million is a great deal for Wolves, isn't it? If we're being brutally honest.
It's a good deal. It's good money, and we're going to talk about like the where we are with the incomings in a second. And guys, if you've got any questions for me and Jack, save them up for the last 15 minutes of the show so we can cover off all these questions about FFP and these sort of things as well. And but like, there's rumours that Daniel Podence is going to be sold. He's got a year left on his contract for around about 8 to 10 million. Personally, Daniel Podence, I know my dad loves him, Bonanza, but like, I'm not too fussed if he goes. Although he top scorer last year, he can score something. He always seems to be in the mix of. I mean, he can't get. I'm surprised he's not started a fight today. But
Again, I think he's one, isn't he? That again, would we be terribly disappointed to lose him? Probably not. But again, it depends on who's coming in. I mean, if for example, we're moving Podence on because we think Sarabia is going to have a bigger impact this year, and Chiquinho's coming back from injury, then okay, give those two the opportunity. So again, time will tell with kind of these players. I mean, what you've got to kind of do is almost put all this to one side, if you like, and kind of go, right, August 31st, or I think that's the transfer window, isn't it, that day? Let's look at what shape the squad's in when that transfer window shuts. If it's better than what it was at the start of the window, then we've had a good transfer window. At the minute, we're in a worse state, absolutely, because we've lost, Neves, who's an absolute key player, and we've lost one or two others, and no one's come in to replace them. But let's just judge it at the end and see.
There's an argument, though, isn't there, Jack, that like the likes of Joe Gomez and all of those sort of players were bought in the January window. Lamina, I mean, they kind of preempted Neves going by bringing these players in January, and people seem to forget that Lamina came in, Joe Gomez came in, Dawson came in, Kuna came in. All of these signings that came in January are pretty much, even Bentley, all made a difference to the squad. So they went in January. There's always going to be people going out at thing, but people look at it the other way around. It's like, oh, we're losing all these players, but they forget that we bought in 5 in January. not saying that we're not going to be bringing in any more players, because we definitely are, because it does take, when you're trying to mold a squad, any manager needs 2, 3, 4 transfer windows to get the exact squad that he wants, and you can't do it in one window. It's an impossibility unless you've got like Saudi Arabia money that you can just buy anybody you want. But Wolves aren't in a position to sort of like be able to do that. We can't compete with the likes of United and Chelsea and Liverpool and all of those, because their revenues are like 6 times more. And the way financial fair play works, you can afford to lose 105 million over 3 years. But if your incomings are 6 times higher and you can still lose 105 million, you can afford to spend more. This is why some of the Premier League are looking at this cap, so to speak, where they're looking at bringing in you can only spend 4 times more than the bottom club earns in TV revenue, to try and stop this big gap getting even bigger. And because as soon as the Premier League stops being a competition, and some people will argue that anyway with City, they just seem to win it every single year. Okay, Liverpool took them close a couple of years ago, Arsenal last year and stuff like that. The beauty of the Premier League is that on any given day, any team can beat the leaders, and we see that happening. And you don't want to lose that. But I do understand why people do start to panic and get stressed and worry and concerned, because I'm a fan. I'm concerned. I'm like, we put a big question mark. Where are the signings coming from? When are we making the signings? When's it going to happen? Pre-season has started. Lopetegui needs to build his squad and his system. But I think, like what you've said, he's doing this in a phased way. You've got the first batch of players that have come back, which he started working with. He's having a look at some of the younger lads as well. We've got some of the loanees that have come back. Ryan Giles. Talk about Ryan Giles first of all, before we go on to some of the others, and then come on to the next phase. What's your take on Ryan Giles? Where are you with him?
If I put it this way, if Ryan Giles was a Middlesbrough player and he just had the season that he'd had with 13, 14 assists and got him into the playoffs and this, that, and the other, and we were linked with signing him, I think we'd be going, that sounds like a good bit of business to me. A bit like we were with
Gorks from Coventry. Everyone's going, Gorks from Coventry. Oh my God, he's the answer. He's gone, isn't he? He's been sold. But he isn't a Wolves player. Ryan Giles has got the second most assists in the Championship. Player of the Year, 2 years running at the club he's winning. And I'm not sure he's good enough, people say. And I'm like, this guy, if he wasn't our player, like that Coventry player, would be saying, why aren't we going out and buying him? But he doesn't seem to people just seem to just go, he's not good enough for the Premier League. So how's the Coventry guy good enough? Just, you don't know, do you, until they try him?
Well, I think his performances for Middlesbrough, certainly the games that I saw towards the end of the season, in the very least, he's earned a shot to try and get to force himself into the squad. And if Lopetegui, for whatever reason, looks and goes, actually, Bueno's my man at left back, and Aït-Nouri's there as well. We don't know what's going on with him, and they decide to move Giles on permanently, then okay. Because like I said earlier, we've got to kind of put our trust in this manager to move the squad around and do what he wants. But I'd like to think that the likes of Giles and Kundal, to name 2, deserve a crack at forcing their way into the squad. I think Luke Kundal's an interesting one, because if you look at Swansea the year before, they had Flynn Downs playing that Kundal role, and he got a 12 million move to West Ham on the back of that, and forced his way into their team. So Kundal is no better or worse than Flynn Downs, in my opinion. So we've potentially got a decent player there that we could integrate into the squad, and that again saves investing in a player from outside.
And
if that makes sense.
Player as well.
Yeah,
Wolves have been very, very tight on homegrown players last year, which is why again some of the outgoings releases some of the spaces to bring in players. I'm with you. I'd love to see Ryan Giles given a shot at Wolves. I think it's great to see your homegrown players come through the ranks in the academy and make it into the team. Look at Hugo Bueno last year. I know he's not British, but he got a chance out of nowhere and then he was like one of the players of the year. He came through. These young lads, they've got motivation. They want to make it, and they want to go. And I think Giles is one of them. But Lopetegui be having a look at him. Then you look at the forward line. Okay, Pedence might be going, but you've got Wang Hee-chan, who probably was one of the better players towards the end of the last season. You've got Sarabia, didn't have a great. I don't think he was too good when he came in last year. He was probably out of the ones that we brought in. Was probably one of the ones that didn't really hit the ground. Nunes didn't have a great season. Was a bit inconsistent, but like the space is moving, playing him in a different position. And with Lopetegui having a chance to work with these players properly, have a proper pre-season, you could end up seeing the best. Kuna as well. Is he a number 9 or is he a number 10? Raul Jimenez is still there. He's still got a year left on his contract. I mean, not saying that Raul's going to be the answer because we need to get a striker in, I think, still. But Raul's still there, and he might have a point to prove this year, you know, if he gets fully fit. Sasha Kalajic, you know, we bought him last summer. We haven't seen, you know, anything of him. We can't really, you know, even comment on how good he's going to be or not. He could be, you know, brilliant, or he could be a complete flop. We don't really know because he's been out for so long with the injuries. Chiquinho, young Chiquinho, you touched on him. He played 3 or 4 games for Wolves. He was a breath of fresh air. This guy got the ball and he could cross the ball like David Beckham. The way he crossed the ball, for someone like Sasha Kalajic coming in and thinking, like getting on the end of that. He was so fast and so direct. Boubacar Traore is another one that, you know, did all right for us. So we've got some players there. People are panicking. We have got players coming back, but it's up to the management to take an assessment of the squad, which Lopetegui is doing right now out there. And he's assessing all of these players. Then you've got Fabio Silva and Pedro Neto coming back. What's your take on Neto and Fabio Silva? Obviously, they got knocked out by England, and congratulations, by the way, to the England under-21s. And you have to say fair play to Gibbs White as well. You know, he's won the World Cup or the Euros with the under-17s. He's he winning side again there. You know, I know he's like divides the fan base, but like someone like Gibbs White in the Wolves side now, I wouldn't mind. There you go. Fabio and Pedro Neto.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we haven't seen the best of Neto since he had his injury in 2021, I think it was, wasn't it, when he first sort of did his knee away at Fulham. He came back at the end of last year, didn't he, and then at the start of this year, but then got injured again. So he's not had a consistent run. And obviously he came into the team at the end of this year in a difficult situation, battling relegation. Doesn't really suit a flair player, does it? So again, it's difficult to judge. You just hope that obviously 2 serious injuries at that age haven't kind of done any lasting damage to him, and he can kind of rediscover that form. It'd be interesting to kind of see how Lopetegui wants to use him, because he's probably apart from maybe Chiquinho, he's probably the best example of an out-and-out winger that we've got now that Traore's gone. But it seems to be that out-and-out wingers are getting less and less fashionable, and teams want inside forwards or they want sort of centre mid players playing out on so they can tuck in and support and track back. So it'll be interesting whether Lopetegui wants to use Neto as a winger, or whether he sees him as the Portugal manager did in that tournament, as more of a sort of centre forward, sort of playing off someone else, sort of in between the sort of the posts, if you like. So that'll be interesting. And then Fabio is kind of Fabio, isn't it? You know, we spent a lot of money on him as an unproven player. Has he proved to be good value? No, he hasn't. But does that mean that we write him off? Probably not, because he's still very, very young. He's done really well at PSV.
If someone comes in with an offer for 20-25 million for Fabio, do you sell him?
If again, it goes to Lopetegui. If Lopetegui wants to use him in the squad, then I think you try and keep him around. If he thinks actually I don't really see a room for him, then you move him on. You know, you take the hit and you move him on. And again, it comes down to Fabio, because there's rumours that he's kind of said that he doesn't particularly want to come back to Wolverhampton to come and play for Wolves.
I've got a take on that, Jack.
Go on.
With Fabio Silva. He's been interviewed by the press over there at PSV, and they're saying, do you want to be here next year? He ain't going to turn around. No one's going to turn around and go, oh, no, when you've got their press interviewing you and they're fans and stuff. He's going to say he's going to say those things to please the fans where he is. It was a long article. It was a context that it was taken out. He's going to say things like that. What's said and what's reported and what's taken out of context are two separate things. This lad is a Wolves player. He's contracted to Wolves. Wolves have got still got a 4-year thing on him. So he's going nowhere unless Wolves sell him. So he ain't got a choice of whether he wants to be here or not, or whether his agent wants him to go or isn't a thing. At the end of the day, this is not the same manager that was there 2 years ago or last year. This is Julian Lopetegui, an elite manager that he's going to be coming back to. It's a fresh start for him. It's like it's almost like a new squad that he's going to. It's completely different. And it's up to Lopetegui, like you say, to make a decision on Fabio Silva. If his attitude's not there, Lopetegui ain't going to put up with it. He's going to get rid of him. If he's got an attitude and he's proving that he's got a hunger and he's putting the ball in the back of the net, he's making the runs and he's earning his place, he'll keep him at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. But I think, like we were saying, I think what Lopetegui said towards the end of last season when he said, I want people that want to be at the football club. So it's in some respects, it's now in the players' court, because if Fabio Silva reports for training at Compton next week or whenever it is and goes, you know what, fresh start, I'm ready to knuckle down, I'm ready to learn from the manager and learn from my teammates and improve, then great. But if he turns up and thinks, don't really fancy it anymore, then you've got to move him on, because you can't say that to the press as a manager, I want people who want to be here, and then keep people at the club that don't want to be there. It's contradictory.
It's all about attitude. Every single Wolves fan wants a player that wants to be here, wants to put that shirt on, wants to play for the badge, wants to prove themselves, wants to make a name for themselves. You know,
yeah, I bet if you ask people who are watching now in the comments to name their favourite ever Wolves player, right? They'd all be players that gave everything. They might not be They might not be technically the best players, or the record scorers, all this kind of thing. They'll be players that gave 100%, and that played as though the badge meant something to them. And that's what you want.
If we as fans see players that are shirking or hiding, if as long as they're putting in the effort and they're putting 150% in, we can forgive most things, but we can't forgive effort. I'm just going to go on to this comment from Chris. Says, I'm clutching at straws, Dave. Your justification isn't the answer. We need players in Premier ready ones, not gambles or kids that we're ready in 5 years. Where have I said that I want us to play kids that are ready in 5 years? I haven't said that I want us to bring in new players that are ready in 5 years. Ryan Giles and the like have been through the academy. They've been out on loan getting experience. They've been burning up in the Championship and people like that. We've got players that have been out on loan learning. Julian Lopetegui will make the decision on whether they're ready for the Premier League or not. And I don't care whether they're 15 or 35. If they're good enough and they're going to put the effort in for the shirt and they've got the ability and the manager thinks they're good enough, that's good enough for me. It doesn't matter about age. It matters about application. It matters about them wanting to be here. It matters about them playing for the shirt, playing for the badge, and whether and how they work as part of the team. But when we're talking about the transfer window now, going forward, we don't want to be bringing in players now that are like a Fabio Silva or something and spending £20 million on a player that, he's one for the future and we're going to loan him out to grasshoppers for like 2 or 3 years. We need players to come in the window now to support the squad that Julian Lopetegui has got, to support that team of all the people that are coming out, that he can look at and go, you're not ready, you're going back out on loan, we're selling you, we're getting rid of you, you're not going to make it. And they're bringing players in that are going to support and make the team that he wants tick. They've got targets. They know they've got people they're going for, but it's not just as simple as going, yeah, we want this player and he doesn't want to come, or they don't want to sell, or whatever. There's a lot of wheels within wheels that goes along with buying these players in. And, Lopetegui and Hobbs and the thing have got to get the decisions right. We need players that are going to come in now in this window that are Premier League ready, that are first team players that are going to come in and not just sit on the bench. They've got to come in and make a difference. The likes of Dawson and Lamina, all of those players. Joe Gomez came in January. Okay, you know, he played a couple of games, but he was always with a mind for this season. They need players that are coming, 3, 4, 5 players that are going to come in and make a difference. Jack, and where are those players going to be? Where are the key positions for you?
I think just going back to what you were just saying, I think we're not saying that the answers are in the squad and we don't need signings. I think everyone's saying we need signings. What we're saying is that there's got to be a structure to the summer window. And it makes perfect sense for Lopetegui to assess the players that are already in the building and then say, okay, so I don't think I've got a striker in this group that I can use. I don't think I've got a centre-half that I can use. So I need you to go and get me one. And it needs to be this type of player and this type of player. That's, I think, what we're trying to get at, isn't it? That it's okay saying, yes, we need to sign players, but you've got to give the players in the building the opportunity to prove themselves first, whether it is someone coming back from injury like Sasha, or whether it's someone coming from a loan spell like Giles, or whether it's someone that like Sarabia, who didn't quite settle in last year because he had newborn kids and he just moved over into a new country and things like that. Not making excuses for him, but he might kick on this year. You just don't know. But it's up to the manager to kind of go, right, let's have a look at these players that are on the books already. And then once I've decided who I want to keep and who I don't want to keep, then I can go and fill those gaps in the squad. Rather than just going, well, let's go and sign a striker, a centre mid, a centre half, a goalkeeper, and see where we are, and then I'll move people on after that, because that doesn't work very often. So
no, exactly. This is exactly it, and this is why I want people not to panic too much. Be concerned. I'm concerned. Jack's concerned. There's a lot of fans that are concerned, but like the market hasn't really started to move just yet. Don't forget, a lot of these players. You know, they only reported back for training last weekend. They've only gone on to their initial training cup this week. And there's, you know, the championship clubs have gone back a little bit earlier, but their season finished two weeks earlier. But and there's still players that haven't come back because they've been involved in internationals and stuff like that. The market, surely, the next 2 weeks, the next 14 days, surely, Jack, we're going to start to see some signings, because if we're having a conversation 2 weeks from today and we're still in the same situation and we haven't signed anyone other than, you know, a free transfer keeper from Northampton that Tony Roberts likes because he's Welsh and, you know, he's there so that will probably never play for Wolves, and so the likes of Sarkic and all of them can go out on loan and what have you. If we're sitting here in 2 weeks' time, we've not made any signings, I think the dial will be turned up quite a lot then, because we'll only be like 3 weeks out from the season, 2 weeks from the match against Reigns at Molineux, which will be the pre-season. He needs the time to get those to be part of the squad. So the next 2 weeks, I think, is important for getting signings in. Don't you think?
No, I agree, and I think, like we said, I think there's a time frame on it. Of course there isn't, and that's the entire transfer window, because ultimately you need to leave the transfer window in a better shape than you were to begin with. But within that, if you're inactive for too long, then I think you do kind of miss out on top targets. They go elsewhere, you know. And like you say, I think as a fan base, I think, you know, we were tremendous towards the end of last year. We put up with some really poor performances. Was it 94-95% renewal rate on season tickets? The new season tickets that were on sale all got snapped up really quickly. So the fans have done their bit now. We've gone, right, we're behind you, we're backing you, we've invested, now it's over to you. And so, yes, what we've said is true, that we need to assess the players in the building and look at what we've got. But there does need to be, within the next 2 weeks, I'd say, probably the next week, actually, I'd shorten it, some sign of activity in terms of incomings. Because like you say, the earlier you get the players in, the longer they get with their new teammates and with the manager. So it does have an advantage. So I'd be if we're sat in 2-3 weeks' time and we're still, you know, not advanced in terms of bringing people in, then I'll start to question what was going on. But at the minute, I think what they're doing is kind of what they've set out. So let's just kind of see how it plays out in the next week.
And that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I mean, I'm exactly this. I'm like apprehensive, but I believe there's a plan in place. You know, I had the privilege actually yesterday of went to a party went to Jason's party, and Matt Murray was there. He came in, and me and Chris, who's one of our members, we must have talked to Matt Murray for like 50 minutes to an hour. I'm not really want to go into divulging ins and outs of what was said, but obviously he kind of like got the impression from him, that wheels are turning at the club and stuff like that. And I'm fairly confident that we will get players in at good value. Look at some of the best signings that we've made. Martinho, 5 million. Dawson, Lamina. I know we played probably a bit over the odds for Kuna, but hopefully he'll do the business, and stuff. And Nunes, we've got some quality. We have got quality at Wolves. We've got lots of quality. Yes, we've lost Neves, but we saw we played without Neves for 2 games and won both games. We've got a hot prospect in Joe Gomez. Lamina is a much more mature player. We've got young players like Kundal and Hodge. We've got players coming back from injury, players coming back from loan. We're not short of players, but the defence is a concern because we need a right back for me. Definitely need a right back. We don't know what's happening with Aït-Nouri. Collins has gone, so we've got to be bringing in at least one central defender. Totti Gomez. People forget about Totti Gomez. He's not going to be good enough. He came from Grasshoppers. He's one of our best players. Hungry, keen, calm on the ball, can play it out. Central defender, slotted in onto left back. Did a great job. Never let us down. We have young players that are keen and hungry. Sometimes they just need the opportunity to shine, but you do need leadership through the team. What's your take on Collins with Napoli sniffing about for 30, 35 million? Would you sell Collins if they came back with a £40 million bid?
Kilman, you mean?
Kilman even, sorry.
Yeah. It's a difficult one because I like Kilman. My concern with Kilman is that he needs an experienced voice next to him all the time, doesn't he? When he had Collins there, Cody, he was great. When he had Collins, he wasn't so good. When Dawson came in, he improved again. So I think he's got a value, like every player. But ultimately, if Napoli meet that value, then I think we have to do a deal, don't we?
You see, we bought him for 40,000. Where was it from? Maidenhead or somewhere?
Maidenhead, yeah.
Yeah, 40,000. People talk about FFP, the profit for the way we did a thing on FFP. It's all about your profit on your sales. Someone who you've bought for 40,000 and then you sell for 40 million, that really does help your FFP massively. Now, Wolves have sold quite a lot. We've got nearly, sort of getting on for £80 million worth of sales. Wolves can invest in the transfer window. They've made a profit against the valuation of Neves. That valuation on FFP definitely helps and stuff like that. But I'd personally like to keep Kilman because I think, he's still on a long-term contract. I think he's only getting better. He's at the right age. He's, learning a lot from Dawson, but we do need to bring in another central defender of experience to bring in. Totti Gomez, we know that can slot in there. Yerson Mosquera's back out on loan to the MLS. The defence has been quite important, and if we didn't score many goals, we can't mess up the defence. What we don't want to turn into Leeds and suddenly score 60 goals but concede 55 or 65 or 75 the other end, and go gung-ho. We need to score more goals and we need to keep the same amount of goals out. And if we do that, we're going to be pushing up the table. And that's got to be the aim for Lopetegui. Lopetegui has got to improve on 13th place next year. Got to be aiming to finish in the top 10, maybe try and have a run at Europe, have a run in the Cup. If we do that and there's an improvement, like you said, it's another step forward. It's a big window that's got to be gone. Wolves have played a first pre-season friendly today against Vitoria. Obviously not fully fit yet, but they came out with a 2-1 win. I think, was it Kuna that scored one?
Yeah.
Who scored the other?
Owen Farmer, wasn't it, from the
Owen
20s?
Owen Farmer. I mean, he's an academy lad, isn't he?
Yeah, good player.
And he's out there. So good. Well, you've talked about Owen Farmer before, haven't you?
Yeah, I'd say there's some good players coming through. There are some good players coming through, and then again that helps, doesn't it? Because you've only got to have one, like Bueno last year, that comes into your squad, saves you 20-25 million on a signing, and and as fans we love seeing young lads coming through the academy and sort of making it, so it's great, and I think Owen Farmer, Nathan Fraser, Harvey Griffiths has just signed a new contract. He's one to definitely keep an eye on. We saw Lemba Kisa come through last year, didn't we? Joe Hodges, coming from Man City, didn't he? But has joined the development and has kind of pushed his way into the first team contention. So, and I think just on the under-21s as a whole, I think the growth of the club, the academy's had to catch up in the last few years. You think back when we were sort of mid-table championship team under Kenny Jackie.
The jump wasn't so big.
Yeah. The level that you needed to be to get from the 21s into the first team wasn't as big as it is now. We've got guys coming like Elliot Watt and Aaron Collins and guys like that who've come through our academy, not been good enough to get into our first team now, but are absolutely smashing it in the Football League. So I think that level that we've needed to get to is slowly we're starting to get there. I'm very confident the likes of Fraser, Lemba Kisa, Griffiths, those kind of guys, Hodge, Farmer even, will end up being Premier League footballers. That's the level of players that we've got in the academy now.
And that's a really good position to be in. So obviously, there's rumours about Wolves playing Celtic in Dublin.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Would you go, Jack?
Probably would. Yeah, I think so. It's a nice place to visit.
I kind of said this. It's like, well, surely they're going to be looking for a game as well. Like, why can't they play them somewhere else? So Wolves could be that'd be a game that will at the Arriva Stadium. But I've already looked. The hotels are ridiculously amounts of money, mate. They're about £200.
Yeah, it won't be cheap, but yeah.
There's an Irish game on the next day or something, so it's a big. But it'd be interesting to see what happens with that. But they haven't really announced any more pre-season friendlies. Now, what did you make of the career thing?
I was disappointed for Russell more than anything, and me and you both know
Russell's gutted. It's not his fault.
No.
We'll point the finger and say that this, that, the other. They were let down, and it's 2 years running. I know the club and stuff like that, but it was an established promoter, and it's not just let Wolves down. It's let Roma down. It's let Celtic down. Celtic had another game planned against Tottenham Hotspur in Japan as well. That's put that into doubt as well. And Wolves. It's all three massive clubs that have been let down by what's happened with this. And commercially, it's a big blow. But it's not Russell's fault in any way, shape, or form. They tried, but it's embarrassing, really, because it's 2 years running. And I think he's like you say, he is gutted.
Yeah, and any fans that kind of already booked flights and hotels and things that are going to be out of pocket now, that's not great for anyone, is it? I think
I'm all right. Patrick Moran, if he lives in Dublin, he says I can stay at his. Patrick,
there you go.
True, I might take you up on that, mate.
There you go.
That's the advantage of having a channel.
That's what you know.
We'll all be going around Patrick's.
There we go. How many spare beds has he got? There we go. But
we need to find that out, don't we?
Yeah, no, but I think that would be good because against Celtic, they're the Champions League side, aren't they? So I think be a good test for us. You can remember as well the days where our pre-season we go to Warsaw, Northampton, Shrewsbury, Crewe. It's a bit different now, isn't it? So it'd be a good test for us again. I still like us to play Roma. I think that'd be a good test as well.
It would be, especially if it was in Rome, because I know Emma would want to go straight away because she loves Rome. Guys, we're coming up to the last 5 or 10 minutes of of this week's podcast. Do us a favour, if you haven't already done, please smash us a like on the video, and if you are new, do us a favour as well as subscribe. We're on 611. See whether we can get that to 30,620 in the next 10 minutes. That would be amazing. Right, so we're going to open the floor now to you guys in the chat. Make sure you subscribe so you can leave a comment. If you want to ask me a question or Jack a question or both of us a question, now's your time to get your questions out, and we'll do our best to answer them in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Mark Davis, who would be the dream signing? I wouldn't mind that guy from Bristol City.
Alex Scott, yeah. I was
Alex
just
Scott.
that was the first name that popped into realistic signing.
Again, he's not one of our players, and everyone's Alex Scott, Alex Scott, Alex Scott, Ryan Giles. Who? People like, oh, is he not good? But like Alex Scott's good enough, but Ryan Giles. But he's our player. But yeah, I think he's going to be a player, and so I wouldn't mind
Oh,
it.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
We've got a question for you from Chris, who's lost his wolf. When is Jack getting rid of the flaming wallpaper?
Do you not like it?
I kind of like it, Jack.
Okay, yeah. He can come and redecorate for me if he wants, and then he can choose whatever wallpaper he likes. There you go.
There you go, Chris. Yeah. Andy Saunders, who would you bring in as a striker?
Striker. The guy at Seville, El Nesri. Something like that. Yeah.
They're looking like they need to sell as well, aren't they?
Yeah, I read something where they're pretty much all their squads available for the right price, aren't they? So, Lopetegui should be licking his lips because he built most of that squad, didn't he? And obviously they...
Well, if he can't influence any players...
Well, they should walk over broken glass to come and play for him, shouldn't they, really? So, people like Ocampos, who I thought was a terrific player when we played them, and he's still there, isn't he? Bono, the goalkeeper, I know we've been linked with him over the weekend, haven't we? He's tremendous, isn't he?
I'd love it as well. Someone, Peter Yam 54 says, who's a member, says, how much do you think we're going to have to spend?
I think that's a difficult question because it depends on
£50 million we'll spend.
Yeah, I think you could put a figure on it, but you look at someone like Dawson for £3 million. I mean, he's probably a 10-15 million pound centre half, isn't it? That we got for £3 million. So we could spend that 50 million and get 80 million pounds worth of players through the door, or we could spend that 50 million and then again get 40 million because we overpay for someone. So, how much we have to spend, I think it's more about the kind of players we need to bring in, and then if we've got the money to sign them, then you do it. If you haven't quite, then you perhaps need to move someone else on, this, that, and the other. So it's difficult to kind of have a budget, isn't it? Almost, because you've kind of got to say, well, don't forget about the money for a second. Let's look at these gaps in the squad.
It's all about the net spend overall.
Yeah,
that it comes into. If Wolves sell 100 million out the thing, and they've got a net, and we spend 50 million, with 50 million in, but that 50 million that we spent, like a Dawson or someone like that, it's all about value, isn't it? Harry Sinclair wants to know what away day you're most looking forward to next year. You're going to say Luton, aren't you?
Kind of. I'm
just
looking forward.
It's weird.
Yeah, but it's kind of not a great place to go, is it? I've been 10 years ago now, wasn't it, when we played them in the FA Cup? I don't know. It's quite difficult, isn't it? Because we didn't have any good away days last year, did we?
So on that basis, surely we're going to have a lot more better away days.
Let's hope so.
Can't be any worse. We only won 2.
No. Well, exactly.
One was a last-minute winner, and the other one we were down to 10 men. I still can't believe that day. That was
Southampton, yeah.
But they were both great for their own reason in terms of joy. But we had like 17 away days last year, which we got 2 or 3 draws, and the rest was just miserable. Other than the actual experience of going to an away day, and it's the whole day. The match is just part of it. But like when you win, it just tops it all off.
I think it'll be our last visit to Goodison Park as well, won't it? So that
one way or other, they'll either get relegated or they'll have the new ground again.
It's their last year.
They haven't got much money to spend either, Everton.
No, they're going to struggle, I think, again.
Grey Jack 9 wants to know Bentley or Sarr.
Neither. I think Sarr's a better goalkeeper, isn't he? But again, if there's better out there, then we need to be looking. I said before with Sarr, the year before the one that's just gone, he was great, wasn't he? Last year, he wasn't great. So you're kind of looking, he's okay, isn't he? Bentley is the new John Ruddy, isn't he? He's great in the dressing room, and he's a good backup, and he'll probably do all right in the cups. But if you needed him to play 20, 25 games in the Premier League, you'd be a bit concerned. So It's one of them, isn't it? I think they've both got a role to play, but I do think we need a new number one to kind of that's better than both, if you like, and he's going to, challenge and make that position his own.
Absolutely, mate. That's a good answer as well there. So the next question that we've got here, which is a good one, Trevor Dean, who should get the captaincy?
I said before, I think the captain might be someone that we bring in. I think if you're looking in the current squad, I think
so?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I think that the two that stand out to me at the minute are Dawson and Lamina, as potentially as captain material. So whether we'd be happy with either of those two. I mean, Dawson, yeah, great, but is he going to start every week? I don't know. The same with Lamina, I suppose, in midfield. That's a position where there's a lot of tactical changes and this, that, and the other. Gomez is an interesting. That's a really interesting shout, actually. Gomez, I do like the idea. I just wonder it's a bit too soon. He's still settling in the country and still just finding his feet.
Either very well.
No, which is obviously a bit of a hindrance.
I think he'd need to improve his English quite a lot to become the captain. To be fair, I get why people say, and that's not to say that he won't be a future captain.
No, I think he's absolutely a potential captain of the future, but I just think it's a bit early now. I mean, I like I say, I'd go Dawson or Lamina as it stands, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone that we signed was given the armband, like when Sam Ricketts came in a few years ago under Kenny Jackett, and he said,
I remember that goal from Sam Ricketts in the 6-4 against Rotherham.
Yeah.
That's still got to be up there. That's got to be up there. I mean, I'll put a question in before we finish. Best ever game, Rotherham at home, that 6-4 is right up there for me. If that was League One, that was League One. And I think it was 4-2 going into added time or something daft.
Yeah, we were 4-2 up. Then they got it back to 4-4, didn't they? And then we scored twice. There was a couple of pitch invasions.
There was about 3 pitch invasions. It was insane. What a game that was. What an ending to a match.
Scored that trick,
you got Ricketts running. He scored that goal, didn't
he? Yeah, and then the most bizarre thing all day was half time. We had Roger Miller on the pitch, didn't we, from Italia 90? Do you remember that?
Oh my God! Was he doing his little dance?
Yeah, because then when Dicko scored, I can't remember if it was his first goal or second goal, he went and did the Roger Miller, didn't he, to the corner flag? Yeah, it was a strange day, wasn't it? That was a bonkers game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, really absolutely, it was. So there's a few there for interesting for the thing. Mark Davis wants to know, is Europe again possible? I think it's too early to say, isn't it, Jack, on that, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think that top 6 will probably all strengthen. I think Newcastle will strengthen. I think they already have, haven't they? And then you're looking at the likes of Brighton, Villa, who are obviously going to be strong again. So, I mean, West Ham might improve. So, I mean, I think realistically, if we can, like you said earlier, if we can finish in that top half this season, 10th, 9th, something like that, I think we've got to kind of accept that as a good season. If you can add some magic on it in terms of a cup run or this, that, and the other, then great, because that then makes it more palatable, doesn't it? As a supporter, you'd rather finish 9th and get to the cup final, for example, than say finish 8th and get knocked out.
To the cup final next year. My dad's 86. I say every year he wants to go to the FA Cup final and sing Abide With Me. And I'm telling you now, I'm 100% telling you now, if we get to the FA Cup final and sing Abide With Me, and I've done my vlog, I will be blubbering. I will literally be blubbering with emotion because it's my dad's dream. Wolves, can we please not mess up? Can we do something in the cups? I think if we finish top 10 and we did something in the cups, we'd be like, yes, that would be amazing for us next year. Can we make Europe? Anyone can make Europe, even bloody Luton Town. You just, it's possible because we all start with 0 points. I mean, but I think there's a lot of water to go under the bridge. Would I like to think, we got to the high water mark under Nuno of 2 7th place finishes, and then we didn't push on. I think they dropped the ball. I think we'll all agree they dropped the ball, and when they should have invested, they didn't. We've got the teams that have gone past us, and we've now got to try and climb the table back up to the top 10. If we can have a good score a few more goals and get the results away from home and keep Molineux as a fortress, then why not? But let's not get carried away, because there's lots of people thinking we're going to get relegated like they do every year. I get that. I always get them. They come on in the comments. We're really going to get relegated. I've heard it for the last 6 years. I've had one little. I used to have Jimmy Frockstroll, who used to give me jip every thingy. We're going to get relegated. Wolves are rubbish. Then he disappeared. I had another one last year and the year before. They come on and then they go very, very quiet when all of a sudden we've got out of it again. We cannot as a club be messing around near the bottom 3 next season. We've got to have a solid start to the season. We've got a tricky start, but I'm not worried about going to United away on that Monday. I think we can go there and get a result. Why not? You know, I like playing these so-called bigger teams early doors because they're not fully up and running. If it had been Manchester City, I still thought, why not? Why can't we go to Old Trafford and get a good result under the lights, you know, Monday night football? Why not? But Wolves have got to be shrewd in the transfer window. We've got to start to see some action. We've got to put a nice little picture. Be nice next week if we're doing a weekly review show and we've got a picture of a new signing on there rather than just a shadowy figure with a question mark. We've got to start investing in the squad. Julian Lopetegui is taking a look at the squad right now. He's taking a look at all the players back from injury. We're going to get the rest of the players back. We've got to invest. We cannot be sat here next week and the week after, 2 weeks' time, in the same position, because then I think, you know, everyone will really be getting the jitters. We need to give Lopetegui the time to build most of his squad. It might not be that we've got everyone in for the start of the season and there'll still be players coming in towards the end of August. That's normal for every team, but we do need to see 2 or 3 signings come in. And these signings, as Chris rightly pointed out earlier on in the show, they've not got to be one for 2 or 3 years down the line. They've got to be players that are going to come in and make a difference now. And they're going to have to come in and be part of that squad, first team ready, with experience to help the young lads. And then who knows what's possible. Final thoughts from you on the before we finish, Jack, for everyone?
Yeah, I just think, like I said, for everyone, just hold your nerve, I suppose. I get the anxiety and I get the frustration, absolutely. But I think, like we said, I think we're doing it in a strategic way. I think that there's been financial pressures on the club, if we can say it that way, to get people out the building. I think there was a sort of a general opinion across the fan base toward the end, particularly at the end of last season, that we needed to strip the squad back and not start again, but to really sort of, you know, really pick it apart and kind of work out who wasn't going to contribute going forward. I think we're starting to see that now with 1 or 2 moving on, like we said. So I think things are starting to be put into place. I think you can't just do it, your summer window as a trolley dash and just go, well, let's sign this player, and see where we are at the end of it. You've got to have a bit of a strategy in place. You've got to be able to go through in phases, if you like. And I think I'm on board with the idea of moving people out, having a look at the loanees and the injury players, and then picking those gaps in the squad and investing in that way. So I think hold your nerve is what I'd say to everyone. You know, I understand the feelings, but let's just see where we are in 2 weeks, 3 weeks time, and then we can obviously judge it with a bit more of a clearer picture.
Jack, the voice of reason. Thank you to Harry, by the way. If you do a super chat, not only does it support the channel, or if you become a channel member, it really helps. Harry's a United fan and he's done a super chat, so thank you so much. But you're guaranteed on getting your thing on the screen. Harry, this is a nice one to finish on. He says, as a United fan, I have a gut feeling you might come to Old Trafford with 3 points. Well, let's hope, mate. And it's great that I've got fans from other clubs that watch the channel and engage with the chat. So that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Robert says, great show. Mick the Wolf, good show as always, Dave and Jack. Cheers, Dave and Jack. Guys, thank you ever so much for joining us. I say, before you go, please just hit the like button. if you're brand new watching, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications. There's daily updates pretty much every time. The podcast will be out tomorrow. And wherever you are in the world, love to you and your family. As Jack says, keep the faith. But trust me, if they don't start pulling their finger out, we will be pulling them up on it. But right now, we're just saying, calm down. It's only a commercial. But if they don't, we will be getting a little bit more irate than we are at the moment. We're staying calm at the moment. But I think, Jack, you're right. So stay calm, keep the faith. And from myself and Jack, to all of you guys, wherever you are in the world, always Wolves.
Always Wolves.